Good morning, Algebra 1. There's been a couple of questions come across this morning on the radicals number 4 worksheet, specifically multiplying and simplifying radicals. So I want to take just a quick look at a couple of these problems to get you started. And I'd like to start with number 2. The square root of 17 times the square root of 17. Now, there's two different ways to think about this problem. And the first is just using your product rule for radicals and calling this the square root of 17 times 17. Or, well, something times itself. I could rewrite that as 17 squared. Or, I could even multiply that out and get 2, 8, 9. But then when I take the square root of 289, I just get the number 17. So instead of going through all of this work, I can just know that when I have the square root of something times itself, that just means the square root of 17 is squared, and I just get 17 as an answer. So important things on this worksheet are common factors. If I have a square root of 17 and another square root of 17, I'm just going to end up with 17. So I want to look at problem number 11 for maybe a little bit better of an example. The square root of 7x times the square root of 21y. Now, 7 is different than 21, but there is a common factor here of 7. So what I've got to do is break this apart. I've got a 7, and 21 is the same thing as 7 times 3. So since it's all multiplication, I can think of each of these as its own radical. Again, that's just the product rule. Square root of 7 times the square root of x times the square root of 7 times the square root of 3 times the square root of y. Now the square root of 7 times the square root of 7, sure, I could multiply those. I would have the square root of 49. That's just the number 7. And then my radical parts here. I've got the square root of x, the square root of 3, the square root of y. Nothing really we can do there because there's no common factor. I could just write the square root of coefficient first, 3xy. I hope this helps getting you started on the radicals number 4. Have a radical time.